I knew death would come for me sooner or later, but I had no idea it would happen so quickly and so suddenly. I also didn't think I'd be so scared once the Grim Reaper came for me. In my defense, I didn't know it would be so painful. The day it happened, I was sitting comfortably in the living room of the old house I lived in with my sister, Hannah. Well, the word comfortable was an exaggeration when you saw our old, torn sofa whose springs seemed to want to escape. I was focused on my work while waiting for her to come back. She loved sewing and made beautiful little stuffed animals that we sold at the village market. Cute little animals stuffed with foam and a few monsters that Hannah conjured up from her imagination. I was always surprised when someone bought one of the monsters from us. I was in charge of putting accessories on them and tying up packages when we had orders. A fairly easy and boring job, but it was one of the few things I could do. Hannah forbade me from leaving the house without her or even being noticed by anyone. The stuffed animals didn't make much money, so my sister worked at a sewing shop, stealing materials whenever she could. So I'd wait for her to get home from work so we could sell our creations in the main square. I thought maybe this time we'd have enough to eat. Our stuffed animals were really cheap and didn't sell very well, but it made Hannah happy, so I didn't complain. As I was working quietly, someone knocked on the door. I sighed and got up from the torn sofa, stretching and walking lazily towards the entrance. Hannah was coming home much earlier than usual. I thought I'd have to wait for her for another hour. Plus, she had work to catch up on since she had forgotten to deliver to a customer the previous week. She often forgot her needles or needed fabrics, and she often had her head in the clouds. But despite her absent-mindedness, she was a very intelligent and incredibly beautiful young woman, and above all, very authoritative. She was the most mature and responsible of us, although sometimes I didn't understand her excesses of caution when it came to me. All the men in the village had already proposed to her because she had all the qualities of a perfect housewife despite her poverty, but she had refused them all. Her only desires were to sew, create brand new clothes for me to wear and take care of me. What exasperated her most was that all her suitors were asking her to abandon me if she wanted the chance to marry. I wished I hadn't been such a burden to her hard-working self. Personally, I wasn't interested in sewing but rather in combat and danger. I dreamed of joining the Royal Guard, but I had never seen a single woman in that position, and I was far too poor to be taken seriously. Anyway, Hannah said that the guards should stay away from me if I wanted to be safe and not get arrested. According to her, the guard took poor children to force them to work in mines or simply killed them to limit the poverty in the kingdom. If Hannah said it with such seriousness and fear, it must be true. I trusted her. I inched closer to the door, about to open it when I noticed something was wrong. The knocking was too violent, too erratic. It wasn't Hannah standing behind the flimsy wooden door that was already shaking from the blows. The guards. They weren't supposed to find me. Hannah was telling me to hide in my lair when they came to inspect. The knocking grew more violent as my body turned into a stone statue. I had to move, and fast, but I couldn't stop myself from keeping my eyes fixed on the hinges that were threatening to give way. When I heard the wood crack, my numb body finally agreed to obey me, and I ran as fast as I could to the center of the living room to lift the old rug and slide into the hole I called my lair. I managed to slip inside just as the door exploded and slammed into the wall opposite to me. I put the rug back in place, my head full of prayers to some god I didn't believe in. Please let them not notice my presence. Huddled deep in my damp earthen shelter, I listened attentively, ignoring the insects surrounding me and the dampness that made me feel like I was in a coffin. Judging by the footsteps, there was only one person there. They were searching the house, growling. I could hear my own heartbeat as my hands trembled. I felt like a coward for hiding like this, but no one was supposed to approach me without Hannah being present. That had always been my rule in life. The scraping suggested they were moving furniture. They were getting closer and closer to my hiding place.
Where are you hiding? I know Hannah leaves you locked in this ruin when she's not there. You can come out. I won't do anything to you. I was tasked with getting you back alive, I promise. Come out of your hiding place.
The stranger yelled. I recognized the voice of a young man. I wouldn't stand a chance in a fight with him, for sure. I automatically clapped my hands over my mouth and almost stopped breathing. Since I was often bored, I practiced fighting, and my skills had gotten very good over the years, but I had to respect Hannah's wishes and not draw attention to myself, and the man was probably way more experienced than me. The man was standing very close to my hiding place. I had to stay quiet and wait for him to leave or for Hannah to come back.
If you don't come out, I'll burn your house down. You'll have to come out. Wouldn't you rather do it gently? I'd prefer it, I swear. I hate hurting people.
he threatened. When I didn't respond, he sighed.
I warned you.
Those were the last words I heard him say. After that, I heard him walk away until he left the house. After a few minutes, a strange smell invaded my nostrils, making me cough and cry. Smoke entered my small space as it became increasingly difficult to breathe. I tried to press a cloth against my mouth and nose, but it didn't really help the situation. A crackling sound could be heard as the heat became unbearable. Wanting to escape, I put my hands under the rug to lift it, but I felt a heavy mass blocking my path. The stranger must have moved a piece of furniture right above me, it was blocking my exit. No matter how hard I tried, nothing moved an inch. I was trapped, and my head was already starting to spin. There was no chance of escape left. The man had carried out his threats and burned the house down, thinking I would be forced out, but I was trapped in a small earthen hole, suffocating as the little air I had left disappeared. I then reviewed memories of my life with Hannah. I thought about what she would do when she knew that her sister was no longer of this world. Would she seek revenge or would she simply mourn my death? At least I would no longer be a burden to her. I was resigned, lying at the bottom of what would serve as my grave. My vision became increasingly blurred as I felt I would no longer have any air to breathe. My lungs were caught in a vice and compressed from the lack of oxygen. My throat was tight as I tried in vain to breathe. I felt like I was drowning, so my last vision would be of smoke stinging the retina and burning the throat. While my vision was blurred, I thought I saw Hannah's face above me. I reached out for her, but her face vanished into dust instantly. I then fell asleep, for what I thought would be forever.
Raven, I'm sorry, so sorry. I failed to protect you.
That voice echoed in my head. Familiar yet so distant, so gentle yet so sad. I could still feel the grains of earth beneath my hands, millions of pebbles pressed into my back, a suffocating heat that made me feel like I was in a huge bonfire. Yet, there was no pain, I felt nothing. Nothing but a paradoxical, intense cold that ran through my body while the heat from all around me tried to reach me without succeeding. I felt as if I were being sucked in by an invisible force that was pushing me ever deeper into the depths of the earth. At that moment, I couldn't tell if I was dead or alive. I simply felt myself leaving.